So I'm going to do another quick stock review, film stock review for you. This one's a really interesting one. It's Kodak Vision 2, this one, but it's very similar to 3. Kodak Vision 2 2000T. Now, it's a motion picture stock. The one I've got, the version 2, is the older version. I think that went out of production in 2010. But it's worth looking at. It's the same thing if you shoot the Vision 3 version. Now, because of like the world of cine-still, everybody's quite used to Kodak Vision 3 500T, which has become their 800. They've got their 50D and they've got their 400 dynamic, who's obviously based off the Kodak 250D. But 200T is an oddity. It sort of doesn't appear on people's radars, and it is quite an interesting fact. It does appear on certain people's radars, and they're very important filmmakers. So if you've watched French Dispatch and you're about to watch Asteroid City, Robert Yeoman and Wes Anderson shoot all. I think all the colour work is done on 200T, and the black and white is Kodak XX. And why do they do that? Because it's a really interesting stock. You can actually, it's a weird one. You can sort of shoot it in daylight without filtration, and it gives you a very interesting look. Now, if you look at Asteroid City, the clips of it, you'll see that it's got a bit of a tilt, a sort of a yellowy look to it. I mean, I don't know if they've shot unfiltered, without any filtration. And the filtration is what's called an 85B filter. You put it over the front, and it's supposed to make the film believe it's being shot in daylight, because it's designed for tungsten. So, you know, it's an interesting point. There's a lot of directors who've shot tungsten films without filtration. And when they shot French Dispatch, they used no filtration. I can't find out if Robert Yeoman didn't shoot with filtration on Asteroid City. But when we go through the photos, you'll sort of see what I mean. It gives this really weird, yellowy look to it, obviously because it's the wrong white balance. But there's some other things to take into account when you shoot motion picture stock, like the native stuff, not cine-still, because that gets developed C41, so it's just a totally different thing. So when you have motion picture film developed ECN-2, it produces a negative that's not designed for print. It's designed to go through the process for projection. And it's designed to go into, especially the Vision films, designed to go into what's called DI, or digital intermediary, or be scanned and worked on. So when you get a scan back of motion picture film, it's not the final product. You always have to adjust motion picture film, color time it needs a grade. And you'll notice this when I show you what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you these pictures, and then I'm going to, directly afterwards, I'm going to adjust them. And it's quite a simple adjustment, it's not huge, but what happens is the film gets developed and the film comes back low contrast, much like if you've done a video log mode, it comes back with a flattened gamma curve, so that it's got a squidged gamma curve, so that you have to expand out the contrast to get the image back. Then you've got to deal with, or get the contrast back in the picture, and then you've got your color issues. Potentially you don't want it, but after doing a lot of tests for this, I actually like shooting it without a filter on it, because in some situations it works fine, and in others it's just a tweak if it's a little bit too yellow. Anyway, let's go through the pictures and you'll see what I mean. And then directly after this picture, each picture, I'll show you a graded version of that picture. I'll do it in DaVinci Resolve, because I know that really well, and I'll just sort of balance the picture out to what it should look like. Okay, so this first one, this is my card, my test card. This is, I shot this on a Pentax MZS, 200T version 2, 160, and I've written no filtration. And you can straight away see that paper's yellow. So, okay, so what I'll do now is I'll correct it and put the corrected one up, and there you go. That's what it should look like. Okay, next one here. This is just a graffiti. And straight away, you look at it and it's like there's something going on here. It's really muted. It's not got as much contrast. It's got a bit of a thing going on. And it doesn't look like it should. So again, I'll tweak the picture and show you what it looks like. And there you go. So that's what it should look like when it's had the contrast curve added back in. And I've just tweaked the colour slightly. Again, this was shot on the street, so I'm in Shoreditch. It doesn't quite feel right, it's muted. it's not quite the same as log C because the scanners that this are being scanned in on aren't designed to scan motion picture, so it's a bit messed up. This it'll try and give it some kind of color profile. The film will develop in low contrast, but won't quite be correct, because what I should be able to do is put a thing called a LUT on it, because it should come back. Normally work with Cine or DPX files. You should be able to put a LUT on it and get it back to look like it should do. They got look up tape. Anyway, so here's the proper version. And then there's this guy. Okay, so again, flat, weird, not quite right, something wrong. But again, the Noritsu, or whatever this was scanned on, doesn't understand what it's looking at. So I've got a low contrast picture, and I've got a tilt. This is unfiltered, I believe, just a bit of yellow in it. You can sort of start to see where Asteroid City, they won't have to do a huge amount of work with Asteroid City to keep that yellow look from what I'm looking at. Anyway, here's the corrected version. And now the next one, here we go. Again, street in Shoreditch somewhere, low contrast, not very nice. And the interesting thing is, when you bring this picture into something like DaVinci Resolve that has scopes, or even look at it on a histogram, you'll see all the information is squidged into the middle. Now, you've got to be careful with this, because these are just JPEGs. In the film industry, you'd have a DPX file or Cineon file, normally DPX, and they are 10-bit files. They have huge amounts of information in 10, 16-bit files that you can extract back out again. So it's really easy to break these when you grade them. So if you really want to shoot a lot of this, I mean, I only just do subtle tweaks on mine, but you get if you scan 16-bit TIFF with these images, you'll get much better results if you want to fiddle with them. Anyway, here's the correct version of this. And then a Pikachu thing. Is that a Pikachu? Okay, doesn't it? That's still shot unfiltered with no filtration, but it's not as heavy on the yellow. Again, there's low contrast, so that needs a tweak. So here you go. And there you have it. So okay, so this clock was shot in one of my bedrooms, and basically this is in broad sunlight. You can see it's got the yellow thing going on, but it's not quite as heavy as some of the other shots. I think that it's one of those things where you have to, I think it's just easier not to shoot the filters, to tell you the truth, and then just tweak them afterwards. I mean, that's going to be just a very simple tweak. I'll put the contrast back in because it's really flat, and it'll look fine. And here we go, there, it's tweaked. And then this one, it's on a train. You can see the colours are muted. It's again low contrast. It's not as harsh as a log image that you get from cinema, from film, not film, from like digital log. But it's somewhere in the middle. But again, I'm saying this is because it's not been scanned for a motion picture scanner. The scanner doesn't understand what it's looking at, and it's motion picture stock, so you have to tweak it. It's not like like a portrait. You shoot it and you should get back pretty close to what you want. You shouldn't have to do. I know everybody just goes mad at Photoshop these days, but you shouldn't really have to do that much adjustment to it. Anyway, just tweak this one. There you go. And then this graffiti wall. You can see it's like completely flat. Everything's washed out. So I'll give it a bit of contrast and then boost the colours a little, give it a little bit more saturation maybe, and it should be fine. And there you go. Okay, so there you have it. Kodak Vision3 or Vision2 200T is great film. It's got bags of latitude. It's really interesting, like Wes Anderson and Robert Yeoman use it a lot. It's one of those ones that's slightly off the radar because everybody concentrates on 500T, 250D and 50D. You don't see it much, but it is in use, as you can tell. I mean, when you go and see Asteroid City, the colour sequences, that's what that was shot on. And the black and white's XX. So it's well worth getting some of this. It's actually one of the ones that's not, 250D and 500T are quite, sort of well used. So if you want quite a unique look to your images, I mean, you should get some and have a play. I mean, it's motion picture stock, so it's going to be quite cheap to get hold of. Just make sure you do it ECN-2. If you do, I have no idea what happens when you do it C41, because that completely changes what's called the color matrix of the image and shifts everything. That's why I think Cinestill's at 800T. It's 800T because there's a shift of exposure or something that goes on when you do it C41. I don't know. I mean, but at the end of the day, if it looks great to you, it doesn't matter, does it really? I mean, if it's what you want to get out of that image. But yeah, so Kodak Vision 200T, it's really good film to play with, especially in the summer. It's like really good something to have in your bag and shoot with. Try it with filtration, see how you get on, and shoot it without filtration. I like it without filtration, then tweak it after. You're going to have to tweak it anyway. So taking out a bit of a yellowy cast doesn't, you're going to have to do this because it's going to be low contrast when it comes back. Anyway, I hope that's been of some use. Thanks for watching.